We say to girls,
what is your podcast?
you can have ambition, but not too much.
Gonna be yapping and cackling away?
Naturally.
If I looked feminine, I would not be taken seriously.
I'm just a girl.
It's amazing how much you can get if you quietly, clearly, and authoritatively demand it.
All right, no, we're not waiting until the end. We are addressing this now. We can't wait the entire podcast episode and not talk about what is very obvious, that you are in a different location. You are not in your home, Amber. Where are you?
I knew I should have put the virtual background in. You're right.
For those who are only listening, Amber has two mystery paintings behind her. She's clearly not in Hawaii. So what is this mystery location?
You're right. I'm not. So I guess, what happened was I met a girl in the market named Rebekah Daniels, and she was like, hey, we're both single. Let's start a podcast. Cut to. Cut to, I am no longer in Hawaii. So, I mean, there are some missing, we got to fill in the blank here, maybe. But yeah, that's the short story. That's the short story.
I guess this is a good way to segue into Welcome to Two Girls on the Market. I'm Rebekah Daniels in Washington. This is my lovely co-host, Amber Haley, who lives in Hawaii but is coming live, but we're not live,
from an undisclosed location.
Oh.
Not in Hawaii.
I will say she's on the mainland.
Yes, I am on the mainland. I'm actually in the great state of Texas.
At a very special location, which maybe we will reveal the exact location at the end of this episode. But this is our way of letting you guys know that we are back on the market.
Oh, we are saying it. This is the finale. This is the episode where we are going back on the market. And I guess we should talk about
in the markets.
We've been in the markets.
Yes.
We've been in the real estate markets, both of us, for I think just maybe over a decade. So 20 years combined between the two of us. Just like to point that out to people.
Yeah.
And okay, and we like to talk about the dating markets because if you have listened to the pilot episode 1, you do know that Becca and I bonded over some past dating history and similarities that we found. And if you haven't listened to the earliest episode of this podcast,
why are you listening to the finale?
Yeah, that's like a weird thing to do.
Started at the beginning, but
start at the beginning.
To jump in at the end.
Yeah. So we met at a real estate conference, and we ended up, falling in love, the greatest love story that's ever been told, because we thought we were going to be in romantic potential dating situations. Didn't work out, but then we found each other. So that's how we came to be. And it inspired this entire podcast. So we talk a lot about dating because we have a lot of, history and experience, I guess, with being single and in the market, and with being, female real estate agents in the market. And
there's a surprising amount of parallels between dating and real estate. For whatever reason, it has ended up that way.
Yeah, and I actually have a friend who is also a single female real estate agent who says she actually talks to her clients about that. When they are looking at houses, she'll be like, hey, you know what? Finding a house is a lot like dating. And here's why. And it's so true. I mean, it's so true. And I can't believe that nobody else really talks about this, at least that I have found out in the world, as much as we do. And I think it's such an amazing way to not only have fun and be silly and be kind of entertaining, because it is very entertaining, but, really talk about all of the unique things that we go through being realtors and
just women.
And just women.
Just all of it, because at the beginning, if you listen to the first episode, you know this. And if you listen to the subsequent episodes, you know this. We don't just talk about dating. We do talk about women's issues and what it's like being a woman in real estate and business. And, we all relate it back to just we're all girls in the market. But this episode is kind of talking a little bit more about our journey and what it's like being back on the market. I think, both of us, we've been dating. I know so we'll rewind a little bit. I took myself off the dating apps end of the summer because I was like, I have so many other things that I need to focus on. I don't even want to worry about this. I will date people as they come up in the wild. I called it. I was like, I just want to meet somebody in the wild.
Okay, so
I,
just for our listeners, Becca's about giving us a little background on her,
yeah.
experience and time in the market. And
Mm-hmm.
we are recording this in the springtime. So you're talking about last summer.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
last
So
year, last summer.
yeah, last summer, last year, I was like, I'm taking myself off the market. I'm just going to kind of see what comes to me. See if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And, still went on some dates and still had some interesting interactions there. But I decided that I was finally ready to get back out there with intentionality. So I made myself a little Hinge profile, and I even got on Bumble, which
Bumble.
Bumble's a dark place, let me tell you.
Wow. Okay,
I
I've never been on Bumble, so I don't
I
know.
I don't recommend. But I don't know, maybe it'd be better for you. But for me, it's a lot of swiping. It's a lot of swiping. But yeah, so I got myself back onto the apps to start looking with intentionality. And then I also convinced Amber that, maybe it was time for her to get back onto the market and start looking with some intentionality as well.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of where this episode was born
Mm-hmm.
because while I would say, you have been single as long as I've known you, I have been single as long as you've known me.
Mm-hmm.
How long have you been single for, Becca, would you say?
Oh,
If
what a
you
great question.
if you care to share with the class. We're being vulnerable
Yes.
here today.
So, yeah, I would say my last serious relationship was 5 years ago, actually.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
so you've been a realtor 10 years, 10 years in the
Mm-hmm.
real estate market, 5 years in the single market.
Yeah. 5 years in the single market. And so that last relationship was somebody that I think I've told you the story that was planning on marrying this guy, was going to move to Norway. It was a whole thing. And then that didn't work out,
Hmm.
clearly. But, obviously, I've dated people since then. I haven't just been twiddling my thumbs at home alone. I just haven't found somebody that I wanted to commit
Well, you've recorded an entire season of a podcast, so you have been busy. I mean, think about all of our episodes that we've recorded while you've been taking this pause from dating and while I've been taking this pause from dating. So we're going to put the dating thing on hold for
Ooh.
just a minute because I kind of want to do a little look back. We've been
Let,
recording together for I think like a few months this year. So almost not
yeah.
every week, but a lot of weeks we'll get into the studio together and record. So
I
we've
think
hit some different topics.
we started in January. This is April, end of
Uh-huh.
April.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, 4 months we've been recording. We've covered a lot of different things. We're coming to the end of season 1. We're going to take
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of a break for a couple of weeks. And then we'll come
Mm-hmm.
back with season 2. So between season 1, I would like us to see some improvement and change and growth in the podcast and our businesses and our lives between now and then, so that we're
Oh
bringing
yeah.
something even better. So are there some areas that you would like us to see some growth in when it comes to the pod?
Yeah. In the podcast, I think there's a lot of ways you can grow. I mean, I've been involved in podcasts before, but I've never produced a podcast, which you and I are co-producing this completely on our
We
own.
have no idea what
So
we're doing.
we literally don't know what we're doing, which is always fun, and it's always it's fun to challenge yourself. But yeah, I've never done a podcast like this format before, and you've done a lot of the editing. I've done some of the editing. That's a new skill for us. So I think I've learned just a lot about how to make a podcast and things that I would do different and better next season. So everyone will have to tune in to see exactly what those things are. But I've
Yeah.
just can think of ways oh, this will be a better way to promote it, to get it out to more people, to record it,
Mm-hmm.
to do this and that. So, little things like that for the podcast. I have some fun plans for
Yeah.
next season.
There's definitely been a lot of trial and error in this. And I know
Yeah.
we've had different, I don't know if you've had this. I've had different agents reach out and they're like, hey, I'm wanting to start a podcast. What did you
Mm-hmm.
do? How did you get started? I'm like, I'm figuring it out as we go. But if you're wanting
Truly.
to start a podcast, some things that I would recommend, we use Riverside. That's one of the tools that we're utilizing. And then I use DaVinci Resolve for the editing. You can get that for free. But honestly, if we can get an editor for next season. That'd be super
Yeah.
cool. But we didn't really want to sink a lot of money into this to begin with, so we've put like really not very much in because
I mean, this was truly a DIY
yeah.
passion project.
Yeah, it really was a passion project. I think we wanted to give it a try to see, like, does this even make sense? Should we even keep doing this? And I don't feel like sinking money into an experiment like that. So
Yeah. Yeah, but it turns out it's pretty easy to make a podcast. So you just have to get, the right equipment. You don't even need really nice equipment. And the right software. And you can always email the pod and we'll let you know what we're using. We'll send you our promo code if you want.
Do we have promo codes?
I do have a Riverside promo code.
Nice. Yes, we'll send you our promo codes, list of equipment. Maybe we should like set up an Amazon storefront like some people do.
Look at us. Look at us.
Like a one-stop shop.
Yeah, make that podcast money.
Get those pennies.
Also, Spotify wants to pick us up. Broke Agent Media, Apple, feel free. We're open to sponsorships from the right person.
We really are.
Company. But yeah, we love to share. We love being collaborative, and we are here, especially for all of you female real estate agents who maybe want to start a podcast in your local real estate market, or just any other listeners that we have who want to have just a hobby or creative endeavor, or maybe a different way to try and monetize things or gain exposure. Yeah, we'd love to help. So reach out to us. You can find, our podcast Instagram. You can find us personally on Instagram. I'm amberhaley.hawaii.
And
you are
Homes with Becca. And it's Bekah, not Becca. Don't get it mixed up.
And at 2 Girls in the Market, and that is the number 2, 2 Girls in the Market. So reach out to us, and we'd love to share what we've learned so you can make less mistakes, hopefully, than we have.
That's right. We went through it so that you don't have to.
Okay, so we got big goals for season 2.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the podcast has helped you or hurt you in either of the markets over season 1?
I don't think it's hurt me at all because again, it's still in theme with content that we were putting out before, and as we discussed, like your vibe attracts your tribe. So my clients have liked it. I think it's probably helped me in some ways. I'm having more conversations with women, just in general, out in that I know in life who aren't in the real estate market. They're also not in the dating market. They're married with children. They're not in either space, and they want to listen to the podcast. They talk about the camaraderie that you and I have and the chemistry that we have, which I think is hilarious. Like, oh, how long have you guys known each other? You must have known each other for years. I'm like, we met 1 year ago. And they're like, what?
Yeah, isn't that wild?
It's wild.
Yeah.
And
it was so fun. We actually got to celebrate that 1 year anniversary together in person.
We did. I don't know if we'll ever be able to release that footage because it's having technical difficulties. So again, hoping to grow in the technical realm, but we'll figure it out. But no, I don't think it's
overall
hurt me at all.
It's been good.
Yeah, it's been good.
Great.
Had good conversations with people who may be clients, may not be clients, and so it's great to hear their feedback from men and women, again, who aren't in the real estate market, to hear some stuff. There was one guy, he told me, because I shame people on the internet who act inappropriate.
You do.
And he had started following me around that time on Instagram. And he's like, yeah, listening to your podcast helped me understand why you did that. And I was like, oh, you didn't know? He's like, no, I was very confused. I was like, why is she posting this out there? And he's like, but then I listened to your podcast and I was like, oh, this makes sense. And he's like, and you've really helped me understand a lot of different things and helped me think about things in a different way. I was like, oh.
Maybe the podcast should be required listening for anybody that you date.
Yeah, I've thought about putting it on the profile. I'd be like, you need to listen to at least one episode.
Oh, interesting.
It's like, this is what you're going to get yourself into. If you want to know how I think about things, you should probably listen to the podcast.
Yeah. Let's see. I would say that the podcast has only helped me professionally because it's helped me make a lot more connections with, other female real estate agents and even with my male colleagues too, because who knew we have a lot of male listeners. So that's been really fun. And of course, it's always fun to like learn a new skill and be creative because do something a little bit different than showing houses, writing contracts, which is a lot of what we do day in and day out. So it's super fun. And I would say in my personal life, it has been interesting.
Ooh, oh, that's right. We've had some interesting conversations of responses to your podcast, to this podcast.
Yeah, I'd say there's been some mixed responses in my personal life to the podcast. But I think a lot of the responses that I think that I've gotten like from men that haven't been great are men who haven't actually listened to the podcast, and they think it's truly just us getting on a microphone, like blasting men that we've dated or just talking about dumb, silly things, which it could not be further from the truth. But yeah, it has kind of created a little bit of a ripple effect, which in a good way, which has just been eye-opening for me with certain people and the way that they have reacted to the podcast.
Yeah.
So
I did actually have one negative reaction.
Oh, what was your negative?
It was somebody who's like, "Is this about me?" And I was yes. But I'm like, I didn't mention your name. Like, I still don't like this. I'm like, well, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. Didn't think you would care.
But here we were here to tell real stories.
Yeah.
We're here to tell real stories, be vulnerable, and share our real experiences. So I kind of wonder if everyone is afraid to date us now.
I don't think so. I mean, if they are, oh well. Go ahead and like separate yourself out. I don't mind. Because here's the thing is when I show up to date somebody, I'm going to show up authentically. I'm not going to hide who I am. I'm not going to hide my personality. I'm not going to try to tame myself down so that you can be comfortable and put on this mask that's eventually going to come off. So you either like me as I am or you don't. And why waste anybody's time? If I'm not for you, that's cool. I'm not going to pretend to be this person that you want or somebody who's less weird or less opinionated. So
I love that because that is something that I have decided, and it's so relevant to this week's episode. But something that I've had to learn is like a really, really, really good thing is to just really be yourself out loud and not be afraid of that and not try and morph into what you think other people want you to be. And this has been a great way for us in a silly way sometimes to do that. This is who we are. And it's either going to work or it's not, but we're not going to change it and we're not going to hide it. No. And if it doesn't work for you, that's actually really great information for everybody to have now.
Which is why I think we should make listening to the podcast required listening before somebody goes on a date with us. It's like pick an episode,
interesting.
Listen to it. If you want to stick around, cool, let's go out. If you decide this is too much, that is also cool. So glad we saved each other 2 hours of our lives because our episodes are like 30, sometimes they're a little bit longer, almost an hour with some of them. But, on average, 45 minutes. So would you rather go on a coffee date for an hour, hour and a half, and then figure out, this probably isn't the right person? Or would you rather just listen to all of my opinions for 45 minutes and then decide if you don't like that? Or that you're like, you know what? I'm in love with this girl. Let me marry her right now.
That's kind of like a good way to like speed date Becca. So everybody who is trying to date Becca, taking notes, first of all, you're already doing a great job because you have gotten probably through entire season 1. And now you know a whole lot more about her.
You've got on 12 dates with me. Wow. Lucky you.
Lucky you. You do still have to get through me, however, which is what they don't know yet until they get to the final episode. I do need to approve, but don't worry, I will. If you're good to her, I will.
There's a few checkpoints.
A few checkpoints. So back on the market. Becca decided after you stopped dating like last summer. So it wasn't that you were in a relationship last year and now you're suddenly single. That's not the situation.
No,
right? I know that, but for our listeners.
Yeah, I was dating people and then I was just like, there's other things I wanted to focus on. And I just didn't feel like putting time and effort into meeting people. And I noticed that and I didn't feel like I was fair. honestly, to the guys that I was seeing, because I'm like, I'm not putting effort in. My brain is not there. My heart is not there. And it's not fair to string this person along while I'm trying to figure out what I want. So
Yeah.
I was just like, let me just take myself off. I want to
So you
focus
took
on.
yourself off.
I did.
Kind of like I've done, for listings before. So if I'm like trying to sell someone's house, sometimes there's reasons, like a real estate agent will take a property, the sellers will want to go off the market. Maybe they need to do a little renovation, or maybe the timing just isn't right. And so you go off the market. And then when the time's right, you go back on.
Yeah, exactly. Or like life changes and they're like, you know what, I was going to move during the summer, but now it's the school year and I don't want to move my kids during the school year. So when the summer comes back around, we'll be back into that headspace to be able to list our home and look for a new property. But, over the school year, you don't want to worry about that. And so for me,
Yeah.
I wanted to work on my personal branding. I wanted to work on my systems in my business. And that was way more important to me than dating. And so until I felt like I was in a headspace where I could add that back into my life, I just didn't want to worry about it. And I was just going to take things as they came and not try to like actively go on dates.
I would say I was pretty similar. We probably went off the market maybe around the same time. I would say of my 10 years in the real estate market, I've actually been off the market for the vast majority of them. And technically, I would say I've been single for over 2 years. But I have dated. I have been in some more and less serious dating situations. And about last summer, there came a point where I realized that I was having like toxic relationship or situationship, I should say, after toxic one. And also, was really, really struggling in my business. This is me being very vulnerable here. I've really struggled in my business the last 2 years, not because I'm not great at my job, but because of things that I was going through personally. And so I really hit a point. And when I say hit a point, I mean like a rock bottom kind of. That kind of came out of nowhere last summer, where I really realized like if I didn't take some time for myself and address other things besides dating and besides even my work, that I would not have a good outcome for either. So that's when I, took myself off the market. Of course I did have to work still, but I would say the last year and 2 years have been some of my like on paper least successful years, because I've been really needing to focus on other things that were actually more important. So yeah, last summer I decided instead of, I was going to intentionally stop dating after I kind of ended and started and ended some really dragged out toxic things, that I just needed to prioritize like working on myself. And so that's what I started doing. And I said, in my head, I was going to give myself until the end of the year. So in my head, I was like, oh, until like, December 31st, 2023, I'm not going to date anybody, and I'm just going to work on myself. And so that's really what I was doing.
I didn't give myself a deadline on that. But one thing interesting that I did notice is that I kept making excuses before getting back to things. Like I felt like I would reach a good point with business and I'm like, oh, well, it's about to be the holidays. So I'm not going to worry about it. Like I thought about getting back on the market, I think like back in October, November. And then I was like, I don't think I really want to deal with this yet. And I was like, oh, December, I'm going to be away for the holidays. I'm going to be in Florida. I don't want to try to match with people. January came and I was like, oh, we're starting the podcast. I don't have time to do it then. And February comes and I'm like, I don't want to worry about it now. And I noticed that I kept making a lot of excuses before getting back into it, because it's also exhausting it is exhausting going through that process of swiping and matching and starting a new conversation, doing this full rotation and it not really going anywhere. And I didn't want to get back into it. I was not thinking it was going to give me the dopamine that I like to have from all the things that I do. Do you feel like you experienced that too? Of like wanting to put things off a little bit? Did you feel like you were like resistant to getting back, putting yourself back out there? Because obviously, you went through these kind of toxic situations, which can be a little scarring, but you did like a ton of work on yourself this year, which I was, a little bit privy to. And I've really proud of you for taking that time and doing those things. But sometimes it's like, okay, we're about to put ourselves back into this situation that could be triggering or exhausting. Did you feel like you were dragging your feet at any points, or were you like, bam, I'm ready to like get back into this?
Well, something that probably most people don't know about me is that I was in like a very, very long-term relationship for most of my adult life, and it was a very bad one. And so when that ended, which was, one of the bravest things I've ever done in my entire life was ending that relationship. Um, it ended in a pretty catastrophic way. The best way I could like describe it without going into too much detail is,
Because it's not everybody's business, honestly.
yeah, and it would, that's a whole season podcast on its own. But was like truly, it was like something that I knew needed to happen, but when it finally did, it was, and I don't even feel like this is being dramatic, it was my entire life burned to the ground. Like everything in my life was gone overnight. My business, like my finances, my relationship, my home life, I walked away from it all because that was the only choice I had to move forward in my life. And it took to getting to like a really, really bad place to be brave enough to do that. And it's something that I'm really, really proud of myself for doing. But it wasn't like it wasn't a light ending. It was very, very, very traumatic time in my life. So I certainly wasn't like looking to get back into like a relationship, and I was knew I had to like rebuild a business and rebuild a life. And a lot of people told me you shouldn't even think about dating anyone for 2 years. That was the number that people seemed to say, and I remember thinking 2 years. That is such a long time. Like I'm not a spring chicken anymore. Like 2 years. That seems so long. But in the end, like I really think that they were probably right. Like what I went through will be a lifetime kind of in it will always affect me. But I really, really had a lot of like healing and work to do. And when I think of how far I've come in the last like 2.5 years, it's I'm it's so amazing. Like I really, really am very proud of myself, but I do know I have like a long way to go. But I really did need like that much time. And I did date actually the first year, not intentionally and not seriously, but you know how life just happens.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm not gonna date anybody. I wasn't out trying to date anybody. Certainly wasn't on dating apps or anything like that. But yeah, I needed time, and then, you know, I had casually dating just to kind of like test it out, I guess. And then, we're going into like the year two a little bit, and then tried again. And I thought like, oh yeah, this is great. Like I thought I was ready, and then I wasn't. And that kind of ended, it was just like one bad thing after another. And I just realized, oh my gosh, it's the same patterns. Like I did not fix what was broken. And so I think I'm really grateful that I feel like I had a lot of self-awareness in what was going wrong in my business, in my life. And I was really grateful that I had really good people surrounding me who could help me help myself. And so, yeah, I really needed all that time. Like, I'm not going to say like I didn't date at all, but dating it was and is, it's getting easier, but like an extremely, extremely hard thing for me, which I know because your friends really are go through your dating life with you.
Yeah.
If you're a female listening, you know what I'm talking about.
It all comes out in the chat.
It all comes out in those group chats. But yeah, so I really needed the break. I really did. And I really needed to relearn unhealthy patterns. And I've leaned heavily on not only like professionals like therapists and doctors and reading a lot of books, but on friends and on people who have had normal healthy relationships to kind of like learn what that is and what that looks like, because I had never had this is also very vulnerable and like hard to say. Like looking back, I've never had like love the way that I know love is supposed to be in a relationship, like ever in my life. I have really great parents who have modeled that, so it's not that I don't know what it looks like, but I've just never had experienced it for myself. So it was great to learn and realize that I was never going to get that opportunity if I didn't do the work. So I told myself, I gave myself like a certain amount of months, and then I even gave myself then I kind of tried. I didn't go out and put myself back on the market, but kind of stumbled into something and learned a little bit from that. And it was confusing for me because I was like, what, this could be a good something. And then I realized, no, just because somebody's maybe like a good person to date doesn't mean they're the right person for me. Right. So I would say probably not up until like this moment. No, not this moment, but this season of my life have I both addressed the issues of unlearning toxic patterns, but also have fine-tuned what I'm actually looking for and who would be right for me. And that is very exciting.
Aw, I love that.
So that's why I think, yes, this was a well-timed thing. And I also just wanted to like practice dating because, I hear my friends like Becca talk about, oh, I went on a date with this person. I went on a coffee date with this person. And I was like, this is, for me, a year ago, dating felt like, and again, this is not even me being dramatic, but it felt like somebody was blindfolding me and letting me free to meander through a field of landmines. Like it felt that hard and stressful. Like I didn't know what I was doing. I could not tell the difference between good and bad people for me. I didn't know who was like safe. Like I didn't know, because when you've been in bad relationships in your past, that's what you learn that love is. And that's why a lot of times you repeat those patterns. So my body didn't know and my mind didn't know.
Yeah, because you wanted
what was healthy.
Painting those red flags green, like we talked about in the
wanted
last
to paint
episode.
those red flags green. But yeah, so I wanted to also challenge myself. When you were like, let's get back on the apps, I was like, my first instinct was like, oh, I tried that last year and it was so traumatic. It felt traumatic, but I wanted to like challenge myself to not have it be feel like I'm gonna get blown up in a like I didn't want it to feel so dramatic. Yeah. Some exposure therapy. Thank you. Yeah. So that was my long-winded way of getting to the point that yes, I do feel ready to be back on the market. Excellent. It was very well timed. And it's great to do it with somebody.
Yeah, like we get to share our stories. We have a whole group chat. And it's not just us. We have some other single ladies in there too. And some married ladies who are just enjoying the stories. And they get to see us as we're like, all right, this is the outfit that we're wearing for this date. And oh, this is what we're doing today. And this is what happened with that. Do we think this person is sketchy or not? And it's
basically, adult friendship is basically just identifying psychopaths in each other's lives, right?
Yeah, spoiler, it's most of the people in your life. Too
funny. Yeah. But okay, so we made this decision together. I think it was your idea though, right?
I think we've been talking about it and like joking about it. And then finally was like, all right, let's do it. I think it was Easter Sunday. Like the day after that, that's when I made my profile. So it wasn't on Sunday. It was like on a Monday.
Right. Okay.
So what was that, March?
Yeah. So it's pretty recent. We probably made them about the same time.
So I think I've been back on for like a month at this point. So you'd be back on for like a month. And this is where, we talked at the beginning of this whole entire podcast about how you and we have very different approaches to things where... I'm this, I lean this way, you lean that way. We find some common ground in the middle. And I think the same is true when it comes to our dating styles as well.
Okay.
Do you not know where I'm going with this? Because that makes it even better.
Actually.
So my approach is actually, I'm not going to get too in the weeds about what my full approach is, because who knows who's going to listen to this. But my approach is I'm looking at values and I'm looking at, is this somebody that I find attractive and I find their morals attractive and their values attractive? Like, do I feel like our lives could align? And obviously you can't get all of that from a profile. So if I'm like, you know what, I feel like they meet some of the base requirements, I'll match with them. And then like, I'm going to get a better feel if I meet somebody in person. And so I do low-key meetups. It doesn't have to be super extreme of like let's have a weekend getaway the first time we meet because we're just getting to know each other. And so we talked about this when I had my first date. It was,
Yeah.
we met up for drinks, and it happened to work out really well because I was also meeting up with an old classmate from high school. So I was like, hey, I'm going to be in this area. If you want to meet up for a drink beforehand, we can do that. I have an easy out if it's not, the vibe isn't great, and it's in a location I'm already going to be in. It just timed out really well, which worked because with this guy, it was nice to meet him. The conversation was fine. We hung out for like an hour. But in the conversation, I discover this man is not the right match for me because we want two very different things. Like, I want to get married. I'm on the apps because I'm trying to find my husband. He doesn't want to get married ever in his life. And I was like, oh, well, why are you here on the app?
Shoot.
And so, you know, it was a great conversation though. We leave, and as we're saying goodbye, I was like, by the way, I was like, hey, it was great to meet you. I don't think that what we're looking for aligns. So, and he's like, yeah, I don't think so either. I was like, cool. Nice to meet you. We don't need to have a second date. We don't need to even exchange contact info. We left it there, said goodbye. I continued on to see my friend. I sent you a voice message. I was like, hey, just want to let you know how this went. And what really stuck out
I remember
to me,
that.
Do you remember what you said?
No. I can only imagine.
No, it was good. You were like, wow, that was really encouraging to hear that it could be so low pressure that you can have this experience with somebody. It's really quick, it's light, it's easy. And if it's not the right vibe, if it's not the right match, you can easily say, you know what, I don't think this is going to work. Nice to meet you. But goodbye. And then keep it moving with your life.
Yeah. And it's so great to like watch somebody like you who can date in such a healthy manner. And I think because one of my toxic patterns that I've had to unlearn is like not knowing how to detach from people. Not even because I'm so attached or because I think it's right or because I want to be there, but because I'm so afraid of like maybe disappointing other people that I will like stuff down my truth. That I'm like, even in a very casual way, like I don't know how to say at the end, like, I don't think that this is gonna, because I didn't know how to just even like casually end something after like a coffee date. Like that felt hard to me. And just to see you just do, have that conversation at the end and just think, yeah, I think we're looking for different things. Like, I was like, wow,
clarity.
Okay, it's not
kindness.
that scary.
Yeah.
Why did I think it was that scary?
I don't know. Why did you? So for others, if you feel like it's that scary, it's not. Just meet the person. It's not like it's a proposal to get married the first date that you go on. You're not committing to anything. It's just you're meeting somebody from the internet. So again, super low expectations. You're meeting somebody from the internet to see if you vibe with them in real life and see if there's any other connection points. You may not feel butterflies for them on that first date. But if you feel like they have qualities, like I'll go on a second date if I like their qualities and I liked their personality enough that I'm like, yeah, I could go on a second date. Even if I'm not like 100% sure of like, is this my person? I feel like one date is really hard to get that figured out. So, go on a second date, get to know them. Sometimes people are nervous on the first date. So it may be hard to get a true read of their personality. But by the second, you've maybe gotten a little bit more of a better vibe going at that point. But if you know that you don't line up on like the fundamentals, like I want to get married, this other person doesn't want to get married, clearly we're not a good fit. We don't need to go on a second date to get that figured out.
Right.
And waste anybody's time.
Yeah. I mean, but shockingly, if that doesn't feel easy to you, I'm here to make you feel less alone in the world because that felt hard to me. But that's like a skill. So that's why I was kind of like excited to try out this dating app thing one more time.
Yeah. So then
I could get a little bit better at that.
Yeah. So Amber takes my meet up with people casually method in a completely different direction.
I did. Well, okay, let me give a little bit of like context for people. So you are trying this whole thing in like you live in Washington. You are a real estate agent and in the dating market in Washington State. And I am doing that same thing, but I'm on a rock in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, deep in the jungle. So there is like a little bit of there's major differences in our markets.
I live in civilization. You live in a jungle. on an island.
Yes. So, I mean, there are some challenges in and of itself with that, and then like I have all like, of course, like my own. As anyone who's been listening, I've got some of my own like deep struggles with this stuff anyway. So, the funny thing was, I also was like, okay, I will make it. So I also set up a profile about the same time as you did. I did not send anybody any likes, like no, like. And it's very terrifying to me and very out of character for me to like go on a dating app, because I feel like my vibe for, ever since I have been single has been like trying to put my head down and like, don't ask me out, don't ask me out. Like, I just have been very like, I don't want, like, pushing that away. So for me to go out and be like, I am here to date, like, that feels incredibly uncomfortable. Like, what am I even doing here? So it's kind of funny because I download it, and then I'm not going to send anybody a like. I know that already. And then if anybody like messages me, I'm like, I don't want to answer, because then they're going to ask me on a date. And like, I'm not here to like actually meet up with anybody. Like, that's crazy.
I remember us having that conversation where you're like, I'm not sending anybody likes. Like, I can't see all the likes. I can't see who likes me. I'm like, you go through them and you see, do I like this person, and you like them back, or you don't, and you X them out and you move to the next person. And I'm like, you just respond to their messages. And you were like, that's a lot. It was very funny.
It's a lot. Okay. Yeah. I'm like a toddler with like toddler level.
But again,
with the dating, and definitely with dating apps.
Again, we went from that to like, we went from stranger danger, Amber, not going to send a like to anybody.
Well, okay.
To...
Yes. So no likes to anybody. And again, so we live in very different markets. So I get on there, and it's like, from what I've been told where I live, so it's like, it's not very populated. It's a very small market, right? Okay. So you get on there, and it's like, oh, there's your friend's ex, your family member's ex, probably your ex, maybe another ex. Like, it's just a sea of exes.
It's the same 5 people. And
then it's the same people. So you get on, and they're like, oh my God, somebody new was on the app. So you get like overwhelmed with every eligible, I feel like every eligible bachelor that lived in my area, like, probably sent me something. That feels overwhelming. And now I'm like out in public, I'm like, oh my, like seeing these people, I feel like everywhere I go, because it's that small of a place where I live. So it's starting to feel already very traumatic. I don't answer anybody I'm not answering anybody. I'm not matching with anybody. Nothing. I did match with one person that was a friend, and I thought that was funny, and I sent him my rose, and that was silly. But that felt safe.
Don't do that. Don't do fake likes with your friends.
That's all I felt comfortable doing. And then there was, I didn't answer anybody. And then, I do hook up my Instagram. Do you do that?
No, because I don't want men DMing me outside of the app.
I do understand.
Like, I won't even give out my phone number until we've met in person, because I'm just like, we're only communicating on this one platform. I'm in date mode. When I'm in date mode, then I open up the app. If I'm not in date mode, I'm not talking to you.
Gotcha.
I time block. Section out my life.
Well, I do connect mine. And I think because I have like such a weird Instagram that I'm like, this will push people away. This will scare them away. And it doesn't, unfortunately. But so one of them did DM me. I don't usually answer those. So if you're listening, I do not answer them. Do not DM me.
If you've listened to all of the episodes.
If you've learned nothing from Two Girls in the Market, just don't slide into Amber's DMs ever. But this person did, and then we did know mutual like a lot of people that I know. A lot of my girlfriends knew this person and had so many nice things to say. And so I was like, okay, fine, I'll answer. So that was like a one-off thing. And that like felt safer to me. So I did go on like a normal Becca date with one person, didn't respond to them on Hinge, obviously. And did eventually, after multiple days and sending everyone I know, like, do you know this person? Like, things like I did go on like one date.
Okay.
Like a normal date, like a dinner. Drinks.
Nice.
Yeah. So that was
more like a trial date for
me challenging myself.
Yeah.
So that felt extreme. And then I was like, okay, that wasn't so bad. But yeah, you're right. So how many dates have you maybe gone on at this point? You think? We've been on there a couple weeks.
Count them out.
Few weeks.
So I did.
Oh.
Okay.
You have to count them?
So here's the thing is...
This is not a judgment thing.
We did a coffee meetup today here because I do local agent.
Today? No. You went on a date today?
No, not today. No. It's just we were talking about this earlier when I was doing my agent coffee meetup because I do weekly meetups with agents, and the dating thing came up. So they were making fun of me for how many dates I have coming up. And
how many dates have you been on and do you have coming up?
I have 3 dates coming up, and I've been on, I think I went on like 4 the first week, and then we were in Texas, so I didn't go out on any that week. I think it's I do like 3 or 4 dates a week.
3 or 4 dates a week.
Cause yeah,
I'm like getting secondhand anxiety right now.
it's just, it's you go on dates. You got to meet people, see if the vibe is there or not.
So you are very right. We do have very different ways of going about this.
Yeah, let's see. I went on 6 first dates that I remember. 6 or 7 first dates. There's been 1 second date, and then there's three more coming up, possibly 4. Because I did have my date last night went really well, and so that's someone I'm going to see again.
That's very exciting.
And then,
does he have your phone number?
Does.
Did he get that far?
Yeah, he got my phone number.
Wow.
And one thing I liked with him is he texted me texted me today, and he's like, "Hey, I really enjoyed last night, and I'd really like to see you again." And I was like, "Oh, very sweet." I like the follow-up text the next day. And so, little piece of advice for the guys is, if you want to see somebody again, you should reach out to them the next day and tell them how much you enjoyed seeing them and that you would really like to see them again. Not just like, don't play it cool.
Aww.
Show your interest.
Absolutely. Honestly, there's nothing that I hate worse than having to guess.
Yeah. Just be honest. If you're feeling it, be open about that. Now, here's the thing.
Yeah.
So I date multiple people at one time. I'm not like, I haven't been on like 12 dates with the same person. Because these are casual meetups. We're casually meeting people. We are getting to know each other. And
the first date, it's like just a screening process, really.
Well, even the second and third date are screening processes. You're getting to know these people. Like, I'm not committed to anybody yet.
Right. Okay. So
it'll be months.
So this
before
is how
we're committed.
This is how you're going about it. And so, I committed to do this with you. So Becca's like, let's go back on the market. Let's get on dating apps. And me feeling like, okay, for the first time, yes, I am in a place to do this. I'm going to do this. So she says, Amber, you need to go on a Hinge date. And I'm like, Becca, hold my beer.
Literally. This girl, I'll let you tell your story. Well, no. I like the text that I got where you're like, would you do this?
You can tell it from your perspective if you want first. I can fill in the blanks.
Can I really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let's see. And I might jump into correct things or whatever.
So Amber sends me this text, and she's like, there's this guy that, wants me to meet him for a drink on the other side of the island. And we've been talking, and things have been going well. And
for like a couple hours.
Yeah, for a couple hours.
Maybe we've been talking.
Oh, I didn't know it had only been a couple. They've been talking a couple hours. Wants me to meet him for a drink. And then at some point, I hear that he's going to go see the solar eclipse, and he's invited you to come see the solar eclipse, right? And then you're like, would you do something like this? And I'm like, I was like, past Rebekah? Yes, because past Rebekah was crazy. Current Rebekah, who's looking for a husband, no, I would not do that. However, as you're thinking about this, do it for the plot.
Do it for the plot.
I was like, but I gave you some disclaimers as well of like, hey, things to think about before you do this, if you decide to do this.
So I'll tell everybody what happened. Yes. So I was like trying to challenge myself. It's really rough. If anybody doesn't believe me when I say, I'm not trying to not have prosperity mindset or whatever, but when you live on a small island, your pool is very small, and I can send you screenshots of the pool if you don't believe me. Yeah. Not you, but the listeners.
Yeah, I was like, oh, yeah.
Feel free to email the pod.
To me.
Yeah.
It's rough out there.
Feel free to email the pod, and I can let you know, some very in-your-face examples of what I'm talking about when I say it is really rough. So it's not like I think that Becca has like a bigger pool. So it's like really, you can get through everybody. I'm through everybody. My search parameters could not be wider. I'm not even like, it's like 100+ miles, literally anybody, anything. Like, I don't care. Open to everything, literally everything. You can get through, you get through everybody.
Yeah, but you would do great over here.
And
You would do great in
I think it
Washington.
would overwhelm me, actually. It would overwhelm me even more. So I remember like somebody popped in. I was like, oh, this is different. There's somebody, it just seemed different on the profile. Like, I was like, oh, this is fun and funny. And then I was like talking to my cousin, and she said, because keep in mind, everyone who's listening, I do live in Hawaii. So that is a big like tourist destination. She's like, oh, by the way, I accidentally went on a date with a tourist.
Oh, I remember you asking
And it
about
was,
that.
and it was like, she's like, I didn't realize, and it was really awkward. So they might be a tourist. And I was like, oh, what? They might not even live
That
here.
happened a lot when I lived in Orlando because big tourist destination. I went on a few dates with tourists then.
Yeah, which some people do intentionally, but my cousin did it accidentally. And I probably would have done it accidentally because I didn't know that was like a thing that people do for fun, because for dating's not fun for me. Like, I don't know why you would want to do that on vacation. Like, it sounds like torture.
You don't know why people would want to
have you not been listening to the pod,
hook up with somebody
Becca?
on vacation?
It's like being blindfolded and walking through a field with landmines. Okay, that does not sound like what I want to do on my vacation. So, okay. So yeah, send it. They're like, yeah, why not? Like, that seems like a totally normal person. Okay. So then I do the match, and then the chatting, and I actually answer, which is like very rare, right? Shocking. And then, chatting back and forth, I was like, oh, this person's funny. Oh, do you live here? They do not, in fact. So normally I was like, oh, then that's going to be done, because like, that's not really what I'm looking for. But like, really, what else do I have going on? And we have to do this, right? Like, I've committed to this. I have been through every profile, every one.
You were ready to expand your search, look in a different location.
And honestly, anybody new just like popping in, it's clearly because they deleted the app and re-downloaded it and resent me a like, because I've already seen you. So they like truly know. So I was like, okay, we're doing this. Couldn't meet up that day because I'd work, the life of a realtor. It was a weekend. We work a lot of weekends. So I'm like showing houses or something, or I have a listing or something. And so then it was the next day. So I think it was probably like 4 p.m. in the afternoon. Go meet up with this tourist who was here for the weekend at a brewery in Hawaii.
Can we say what his nickname is? Because
sure.
I name the guys that I'm talking to.
Oh, tell me the nickname of yours.
For yours?
Or let's give them a nickname. For yours first.
For which one?
It always comes down to that with Becca. I ask her literally any question, and she's like, which one? This is a fundamental difference. Well, we have a lot of fundamental differences. This is a big theme that you will see. Becca, which one? Which guy are you talking about? Oh my goodness. So let's say last night's. I don't
have one for him yet.
Well, maybe we need to come up with one right now on the spot.
I'm not ready for that, but you already have one. I already have one for your tourist.
Okay,
chicken nugget.
Yeah, so we can go with that. We'll call them that.
Come chicken nugget.
So go meet up at a brewery, then have a good time over pineapple pizza. Which, by the way, nothing says I am a tourist in Hawaii more than putting pineapple on your pizza. By the way, we don't really do that in Hawaii. And then 3 hours later, got on a plane with him and flew 3,600 miles to go on a date to see the solar eclipse.
As one does.
So I took it very seriously.
Goes on a weekend getaway. Second
I would say
date. But really it was your first date with chicken nugget.
Yes. Yeah. But I did learn some very valuable tools from you. Ooh. I did get a photograph of the driver's license and send it to the group chat and share my location. So it was fine.
We made Amber share her location and send us his driver's license and send us his picture. We're like, well, this way, if anything happens, we don't recommend this method, by the way, to just general listeners. But if you want to go on an adventure, this is an adventure.
Yeah.
It's a great story.
And it was so much fun. So it was, we just had to keep the date going. So we flew 2 flights across the Pacific Ocean, landed in the great state of Texas.
Watched the solar eclipse.
And because it was, in Hawaii, you weren't really going to see the solar eclipse. Did you see it up in Washington?
No, we saw clouds.
No. So there are certain parts of like the planet where you can see all of it in totality, which is kind of like for a lot of people a once in a lifetime thing. So, sounded fun. So literally landed at the airport, got in a car and drove right to the eclipse and saw it. It was amazing.
I love it.
It was really, really, really special. And so that could have gone not great, but maybe it was like cosmically meant to be.
Maybe because you're in Texas right now. And this is a few weeks.
Oh, wait, we did tell
Post.
people that, didn't we?
So, surprise, things are still going well with Chicken Nugget.
Yeah, they actually are. So, some people, do things a normal
Mhm.
way, I think, like Becca, and they really, do the screenings and the how many dates we had, like 3-4 a
Multiple
week.
applicants, got to get through this interview process. I see it the way that they did back in like the Regency period, where they had that coming out season where they would go to all these different balls and they would have all these teas and they would have dinners and they just meet
Like a Bridgerton
exactly.
vibe?
They're meeting all of these
Okay.
potential suitors and seeing who's gonna
Uh-huh.
be the right fit. And that's all I'm doing is this is my coming out season. And I'm just filling my dance card. Okay.
She's filling her dance card. Oh my gosh, I love that analogy. Yeah, and I just went the other route, which is actually pretty on brand with my life. I think, most people are kind of like this, and I'm kind of like, that's my
You get
life.
all in on
So
one
I just go for
person.
the extremes. Well, it's not even all in on one person. It's just I live hard. Just in general in life. I have high highs, I have low lows. And I think you get there by doing things like getting on an airplane to go on a date 3,600 miles away with somebody that you just met 3 hours before. And sometimes that works out for you and sometimes it doesn't. And, I guess everyone's going to have to tune into season 2 to find out.
Right. Because season 2 is going to be obviously more girls in the market, talking about things that relate to all the girls in the market, but we're also going to be sharing more of our on the market stories and we're going to get scientific with some of these things because I have been tracking which pictures are getting likes, which prompts are getting likes, what's getting the most. We're going to be talking about how to build your perfect profile if you're in the dating market and also how to build your perfect listing for the real estate market because again,
so important.
So much correlation, but we're going to be getting into a lot of those different things. And Amber, I don't know if you know this, but I've been sharing my dating stories for years now. And I almost wrote a book because people kept asking for this. And it was going to be titled Show Me Your Feet and Other Dating Horror Stories.
I'm sorry.
So I will be sharing more of these stories in season 2. Maybe we'll do like one story per week. We'll see. We'll see how that all comes out. But yeah, we'll be sharing more of our dating stories. You'll find out what's happening with Chicken Nugget. Do Chicken Nugget and Amber get married? Do they find love? Or is this just a short
just to point
burst?
out, that is...
Was this cosmic
That
love?
is not everybody's goal. It's not everybody's goal.
Plot twist.
Important to find out.
What a plot twist.
What a plot twist.
2 months from now, when we return, there have been wedding bells. Amber's gotten married. Or maybe I'll have gotten married. We don't know. Probably not. But maybe my dance card will have gotten filled up by one person at that point.
I mean, if nothing else, I just hope everybody tunes into season 2 for the episode called Show Me Your Feet. That apparently we will be having.
Oh, yes.
I can't wait for Mom to listen to that one.
It's gonna good times, folks. But in the meantime, please continue to send us your stories of being a girl in the market, on the market, whatever your life experiences have been. Give us your feedback. We have so loved and appreciated hearing all of your stories, your reactions, to hear that you're laughing out loud in the gym while you're listening. That some of the episodes have brought you to tears. We're so sorry, but also glad that it's encouraging you. And just know that we are so thankful and grateful for each and every one of you. And this has been so much fun to do with you, Amber, and to do with everybody else.
It's been so special sharing these conversations and laughing with you and telling real stories. Yeah, I can't wait to keep this going. I can't wait to see where it takes us next season and, doing it for the plot. I can't wait to give updates and get updates.
Basically, what we're doing for the next few months is just doing it all for the plot. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I think that's how life should be lived.
That's how I live my life,
in a way.
Clearly, it's all about the adventure.
Yeah, do it for the plot.
Do it for the plot. Living our best lives. But no, at the end of the day, our hope and our goal with everything that we do, whether it be on this podcast, whether it's in our real estate markets and in our businesses, I know that we're both hoping to have a positive impact on the lives of those around us. And so if this has had a positive impact on you, let us know. leave us a review, send us a message, share this with your friends and family. Hopefully, you get some good laughs out of it. And just know that at the end of the day, we're all just girls in the market. And we're so glad that we get to do life with you.
So glad. See you next season.
Bye.
Bye.